Okay, today we are joined by Enzo from June and super excited to learn more about Enzo and what he's working on, which is something which most companies, especially SaaS companies out there, and there might be actually many other types of companies that they can help now today, really do need. Enzo, thanks so much for coming on, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah, excited to be here and excited to see you, man. Always good to chat with you.
Awesome. Well, let's actually start with this. Could you just tell me a little bit about yourself and maybe what you were doing before you started June?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it could be a pretty long story, but the TLDR is that I worked in tech for 7 years, 6 or 7 years, and more precisely in product. And, worked across different industries, different company sizes, different countries, all over Europe, and really got passionate about building great products. And I think I also developed a passion for data because my background was in finance. Used to be kind of a trader before that. In Asia, seems like a different life, and I kind of like mix both of my passions. One is to build a great product, and the other one was to be kind of data informed or data driven. But kind of mix that with my willingness to, I don't know, build something new to the world, bring something new to the world. And this is why a couple of months ago, I left my very comfortable seats in products and decided to, build on my own company for product teams, and together with my amazing co-founder for Joe, basically.
That's awesome. And I think actually I want to double click onto something you mentioned there. There are many folks out there in jobs right now, but they have this idea or this thing which, this itch that they want to start something. Is there a moment or is there a explanation in your head, maybe that you realize now, that moment when you were truly inspired to leave your, you said, comfortable job and venture into the unknown and start this business?
Yeah, I think there are quite a few turning points for us. So it depends a lot on who you are and what you're looking for, to make your decision in life. Some people feel very comfortable taking very big leap of faith. Some people need a lot of, validation or confirmation before they do things, right? So in my case, I'm kind of like in between. I like to take risk, but I also like to take, calibrated risk. And so I kind of like had this epiphany that there was a problem I wanted to solve, but I didn't know if it's an important problem for which people were basically willing to pay. And so before I left, I was kind of like running these interviews, the morning before I was going to work, the evening, after coming back to work, or sometime on the weekend. And throughout, like, I think 60 or 80 interviews, I really got a strong validation that people were really excited about the problems we were going after. And they really wanted to solve it, to the extent that they were willing to talk with someone like me that had no project, no product, no solution, just was taking out their time. So that was one of the turning points, finding out about, kind of like early validating the pain and the willingness for people to pay by launching like some early prototype. And I think the last thing was to have some early believers in the project. So when I started to have an idea of what was the problem I was going after and what was the solution we wanted to build, or like kind of like a rough shape of what the solution was, we started to bring it to a couple of expert people. And I think one of which was a startup studio in Paris called eFounders, especially one of their partner called Thibaut. And I remember Thibaut really well telling me, like, I was pitching him the idea, and I was telling him like that I really love my job, I was really comfortable, and also had like great, stock options. And he told me like, look, dude, like this doesn't make sense. If you guys are interested into, stock ownership, and I said yes, then he told me like, then there is no way you don't start your own company, because that's the way to the maximum ownership, basically. And I think that was like the turning point for us. We thought like, okay, is right, like, let's take the risk. We have validation. We have these people that are willing, to support us, and they've seen like endless of, teams and projects, and they know their shit, and they also believe in us. And in terms of like ownership, it was kind of also a better package. So all in all, I was just like bought in. Like there was no reason not to do it, besides taking my gut and make the leap. And so, yeah. And actually, my co-founder was even it was actually even more convinced than I was. I think I was the last one to be convinced to take the leap.
Wow. Well, I think there's a ton of really insightful things in here, but a couple of things really stand out. I love the term calibrated risk. This doesn't sound like something where you woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to quit my job and go figure this out. You were moonlighting after work, talking to customers, validating the problem. You started with a problem. And it sounds like you were also, I guess, sunrising before work. You were talking to customers and validating the problem. So you went out, you validated there was a problem. Also, it definitely helps to have the support or the recommendation from trusted experts or partners. So it sounds like you had those two things, and then also a great co-founder, and those three things together were enough to really take that step and venture into June. And maybe with that, tell us a little bit about June. What do you got? What problem are you solving, and how does June solve that problem?
Right. So cool. I mean, it's a very, very broad problem space. So I'll just name it. It's let's name it the problem to turn users' behaviors into insight. That's roughly the space. Like when you want to make some decisions and you're building some kind of digitalized product, you have a couple of ways of doing that. One of which is having a great strategy, and you may be just Steve Jobs and just have a strategy and stick to it for 5 years and deliver the best product in the world. Or you may be very research driven. You may talk to a lot of people like we did. You may observe a lot of what people do and so on. But there's a third thing, which is basically being data informed or data driven, depending on where you want to put the cursor, right? And if you want to be that, which is kind of like at least one of the 3 pillars of every, let's say, tech companies, then today it's really, really hard to do it. Like it's very, very slow process. It's very tedious process. It's very boring. And it requires a lot of expertise. So we zoom in on one very specific aspect of being data driven, which is how product teams are data driven. And that really comes from our background. We've worked in product teams. We've tried to be like 10 of data informed, and we've noticed how painful it is. There is a long journey, but basically it goes from defining your success metric all the way to getting an insight. And across that journey, you basically have, you need to define success metric, instrument your product, document what you're tracking, coming up with the right visualization tool, running queries in case you have a tool that requests queries, and then being able to turn that into insight, and then share this insight with your team, and then you go back to the beginning, and again you have to do the whole journey, right? And that whole journey is like completely broken. Like you need several tools, at least 4 or 5, several disciplines, engineers, QA, product person, not marketing person, but at least a business person. Yeah. And it just gets lost into the weeds of the development process. So we thought we would tackle that, and our vision is basically to build the most simple product analytics. So it sounds very basic, right? But just focus on the word simple, like building something that anyone can use. Not everyone, because everyone doesn't care about product analytics, but anyone that is willing to sell some data can use, and it's guided to get to a result. This is what we're building today. So there is no setup. There is no handovers. There is no expertise to be built. You're being fully guided. And we don't stop with a result. We stop with an insight. So yeah, basically, it's a template-based, in short, it's a template-based product analytics that delivers from, help you from what you should measure and help you understand what you should measure up to the insight and telling you what you do, and then help you get back to your work and talking to your customers, basically.
That's awesome. And I love the focus on, user behavior to user insight in the most simple way. I think everyone knows it's good to be data driven, but we're drowning in data. There's more data being created than ever before. So it sounds like, hey, we want to make that accessible to, I like that, anyone, not everyone, because not everyone maybe needs data or it's not as integral to what they're working on. And the focus on product sounds like you and your co-founder, Frucio, have a lot of expertise there specifically. So cool. Sounds like you're tackling like a problem which most tech companies and maybe even any product teams are facing. How did you then decide to formalize the business? Take this from, hey, there are people out there who have this problem. we want to build a business here. Well, when did you decide, hey, it's time to actually create a business and formalize that?
Right. So this came pretty late, actually. This came pretty late. For Richard and I, we've always been convinced that you don't need to formalize a business to start the business, right? And so in the early days, actually, the product was not called June. The company was not called June. It was called Product Analytics. And actually, I think my Google Drive is still called Product Analytics. So we started by a space, and we started by, you know, a problem space, and we knew it was broken. We knew by zooming in, we were going to be able to build or start to build the solutions, but we didn't know yet where we were going to zoom and if we had to pivot.
Got it.
Also, some of the strong tips that people give you is like, don't fall in love with your MVP, right? Don't fall in love with the first solution you build. So we started there, right? And the moment we started to formalize the business was when we knew we were heading in the right direction, right? It's a little bit like recruiting for us. It was kind of like, okay, we know where we're going. We know we just need to double down. We just need to make it happen. We need to put that in our customers' hand, not a prototype, not a good beta, like a working product that they will be paying for and paying more money than today. And to get there, you know, we need to have like a more structured like, you know, process, like venture, like for a couple of reasons, right? One of which is you want to you know, give the intellectual property to the company. You want to make sure that, you know, the company is above the people. You want to do everything for the success of the company. Yep. So one of the ways to do that is actually to formalize the company. The second one is, as you start raising money, it doesn't work to raise money from an angel or a VC and put that on your personal bank account. Like, there is no way anyone serious out there will do that. You may do it, but even if you do that, if you want to transfer your personal money to a company bank account later on, I'm sure you go through some pretty crazy clearance processes. And the last one is for recruiting, right? Obviously, if you want to recruit the best people, you want to have this entity that, you know, can recruit them, following all the, you know, the rules, regulations in the countries where they operate. And, you know, as soon as you roll out like stock option packages, whatever, you absolutely need a venture. So for us, the first day, and this is where you and I we met, was, okay, we know we want to build a venture. We know we want to make it happen. This is not an expertise we have. Who can help us get that done, that we trust, because it's quite a big deal for us. And yeah, and you know, just work on, make it happen like anything else.
Got it. So I think that I really like that. I think this is a great message to everyone. You don't need to have an official business to start working on the business and validating it. But at a certain point, it sounds like, and I like the way you highlighted this, to take investment, you actually might need a company, or it makes things a lot complicated to not have that set up from the beginning. And from a recruiting perspective and, you know, giving stock options, et cetera, you also might and will need the entity too. So that makes a ton of sense there. And that I do remember that is when we met. If you can remember and sort of time travel back to then, were you looking into a lot of different companies or options for forming your company? As you mentioned, this is something you didn't have expertise in. How did you sort of end up deciding to go with StartPack, and what options were you looking at?
Yeah, so we were based in France, right? So, and we were gonna incorporate in the US for a couple of reasons, including and mostly I would say take investors' money from the US. I think we got the tips that typical non-US companies will have, which is a short list of the top 3, you know, 2 or 3 platforms that everyone goes on: Stripe Atlas, Clerky, and I think there was a third one. And we wanted to go quiet vanilla. We wanted to go with something fairly simple, but something a little bit more advanced than plain vanilla. We wanted something like, you know, get the status up and running, blah, blah, blah. But I remember we wanted to do the 93B. Is it the 93B?
83B. There's a lot of forms of that. So, right. Yeah, you're close.
So 83B was one of this form, right? And it doesn't. So that was one thing. The other thing was we were abroad. We are not American citizens, as you can tell with my accent. And so we wanted a little bit of support. Like, we didn't want just, you know, send something on Stripe and Clerky and it's great, but they have like thousands of customers and like there is no way we get instant feedback from them if anything goes wrong. So we wanted a little bit more like an hands-on, support and like processes. And so I think this is where we started to look for that ideal solutions, and we didn't see any. The closest thing we found from that was some very expensive lawyers that were not specialized into that, but they were willing to do it. And we thought that we may do that, but at the same time, we may overinvest into that because it's like, funding the company. But at the same time, we were like fairly confident that, there are lots of like setup which have been like, which are duplicable, right? It's just something that people have done again and again and again. And this is where you and we met. I believe we met on through my co-founder Ferruccio, because you guys were on the on deck fellowship, right? The same fellowship.
Correct.
Right. And so Ferruccio talked to me and was like, yeah, there is this guy. These guys, they're doing start pack, and it's exactly what we're looking for. What do you think? And I was like, okay, let's take a call, and then the rest is history.
Well, I actually really like what you said. You were looking for vanilla, but with a little spice, and spice here is support. And also, I think another thing you highlighted was, as foreign founders, I think there are things which are unique to that circumstance or situation where hopefully someone might have that expertise. And I think that's a big reason why my partner and I started to work on this, is we felt that this is really painful. There's not enough support out there, but it's a vanilla process, which with some support and a little more spice we can deliver a fantastic experience. Let me ask you this, in those conversations with Ferruccio, were you ever worried about us possibly being a scam?
Yes, we were. And the thing that of course we were, because it's like any online services, right? And I think we lift off this worried very early on when you and I we took an intro call. I think there are two things that lift my worries. The first one is we took an intro call. I felt you were like, in French we said like, you like stood in your shoes, like you were like, seems like an honest person.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you seem like an honest person, and so on. And the second thing is like you and I, we have the same. I think you were a product person, right?
I did. Yeah. I used to be a product manager at Dropbox, actually.
At Dropbox, right? And so I just met so many product person in my life, and I would honestly trust like 80% of them at least, because they just handle so many stuff in the teams they belong to usually, right? They're not the, depends, but most of the cases they're like very, very responsible people, right? And so I thought, okay, you know what? Funding a company is a one-off process, right? So you guys help us. It's not like in 10 years we're stuck with you, right? Like if we have more things we want to do with you, we can do it with you. If we have follow-up, we can do it with you. But all in all, it's not a process which is going to stick us, right? So that was one thing. We call them not reversible decision, but like kind of like one-off decision, right? You seem like a very trustable person, and I had this kind of like double check, which is that you did the same job than I did. So I was like, okay, let's. Doesn't seem like a scam. Let's do it.
Love it. And no, hey, I think thank you for your candor there. I think we've all had that experience of wondering, hey, is this for real? But yeah, your kind words mean a lot here, and it's been awesome getting to know you and to see the progress you've made in this short amount of time, really. Awesome. So let's finish up with this. I'm actually going to combine two questions here. If you could give any advice to entrepreneurs out there, what would it be? And I'm going to make it a little trickier. The advice can only fit on a billboard. So you're on the highway, it's a billboard. The text has to be kind of big too, so you don't have much text to write. What advice would you give? What would go on that billboard?
I'll just sell the YC one, because I keep hearing it these days. Make something that people want.
Make something that people want.
Yeah, that's the most important one. Make something that people want, because all the rest will just like collapse if you don't do that. You can be great, have a great vision, tackle a great problem, have a great team. No matter what you want to assemble together, if you don't nail that one, build something that people want, then all the rest will just not survive. The 6 first months. So work on this one.
I love that. I love it. So let's finish up with that.
That could be a problem. That could be a problem that you have. Most likely, it's going to be a problem that you have or you have had.
Okay, love it. So to everyone out there, make something people want. I think that's a really great driving force and a great question to continuously ask yourself. Enzo, this was a ton of fun. Thank you so much for coming in today. And everyone out there, anyone out there, if you are looking for a way to turn user behavior to insights in the most simple way, check out June. We'll provide the link here too. Enzo, have a great rest of your day. And hopefully when the pandemic's over, we can meet up in person and chat as well.
Likewise, man. Talk soon.
Okay, bye.